On October 7th, 2023, terrorists invaded Israel. We spoke in the last episode about the atrocities committed at the Nova Music Festival, but the death and terror did not stop there. Terrorists invaded multiple communities in southern Israel that are called kibbutz. They're like small towns. There, Hamas raped, tortured, burned, and murdered families and their pets. Let's see what American Muslims for Palestine's Osama Abu Arshad had to say in the months after the attack, when he talks about taking back a university campus like they would take back the United States, like they were taking back Gaza.
And we will take back these colleges, as we will take back America, as we will take back Palestine, as we will take back our humanity. You will be the past. We are the future. Assalamu alaikum.
Now that we've seen Osama Abu Arshad's statements, let's take a look at how Hamas was taking back Gaza. On October 7th, in the area of Sderot, and specifically in Melfasim. In Melfasim and Sderot, at least 72 people were killed on October 7th in Sderot, and 77 civilians died on or near Kibbutz Melfasim. 13 people were taken hostage from the area. The bodies of 11 of them who were murdered that day were taken into Gaza.
أنا قاعد بكلمك من جوبا بسيم. افتح الواتس تبع قول له وين شوف كيف القتلة، شوف كيف قتلك بيدي يابا، ابنك قتل يهود، هاي دخلوا بسيم يابا. الله أكبر، ربنا يحميك يا رب، ربنا يحميك يابا، ربنا يحميك يابا. قاعد بكلمك من جوال يهودية، قتلتها وقتلت جوزها، الله أكبر، الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. يابا افتح الواتس شوف كيف قتلت يابا، افتح بتدفع عليك واتس قول له وين بروح. ربنا يوفقك بالسلامة. يابا أجوبة بسيم يابا، يابا والله 10 قتلت، 10 بيدي يابا، يابا على ايدي، اعطينا امي يما يسميك يما.
We will now talk about the atrocities that took place at Kibbutz Kfar Aza.
Reporting across Israel and from Washington, and we begin tonight with ABC's Matt Gutman and what our team witnessed in an Israeli community of kibbutz near the border with Gaza just today. And we warn you, this is difficult.
Tonight, the world's first direct glimpse inside a massacre, the brutality Hamas unleashed on Israeli villages around Gaza.
This is the town of Kfar Aza. There are military jeeps, tanks everywhere. We understand that there were dozens and dozens of people killed here. There may still be bodies out in this town right now.
The military only now able to see the full extent of the horror that unfolded in this leafy kibbutz, home to so many young families.
You see the babies, the mother, the fathers in the bedrooms, in the protection rooms, and how the terrorists kill them. It's not a war. It's not a battlefield. It's a massacre.
It was early Saturday when Hamas terrorists burst through the gates.
So right there, I don't know if you can see, there's that breach in the fence. That's where they came in, driving motorcycles like this, and they took this entire side of the kibbutz by surprise there.
Today, we are with the soldiers as they go door to door, bringing out the murdered.
It's the incredibly grim task that these soldiers have of wrapping up a body right in that room.
I came here when I was 5, and I grew up here in a very different reality than we are experiencing today. We can see the distance from Gaza border. It's about 1.5 or 2 kilometers. When I grew up, it was a quiet border. Our kibbutz guard, you saw in the gate the people from the army. So our guard was Ahmed from Gaza. He was the guard of the kibbutz. He was invited to all the kibbutz holidays with his family. This is the reality I grew up in. So we didn't have bombs, and we didn't have smoke or demonstrations on the fence. And I grew up like we're friends. In the last years, it got hotter and hotter, and my niece and my brother and his family, my 2 brothers here, you can hear the bombs. They live in this reality. Once in a couple of months, or there are evacuated from the kibbutz to a hotel. There is, they call it like a round, like sevev in Hebrew, a round of getting, bombing Gaza, missiles on us. This was the reality for a lot of years, around 15 years. So I just wanted to see the distance. And from here, I want to continue and tell you about October 7th, about the day that I came to visit my mom in the kibbutz.
Okay.
This is the Gaza border. This one, was one of the main gates that Nukhbas were entered from. The neighborhood that was hurt the most. So the guy that lived in here, right at the last unit, he says he has a whole evidence of seeing Nukhbas coming and standing here.
So when you said the Nukhba, you mean the more elite forces, right?
Yeah.
Hamas's elite forces.
Elite force.
And they came
wearing black, equipped with all the equipment on them, and they were standing here, like to set themselves up, and they had a commander. He's saying that. I didn't see that.
Before October 7th or on October 7th, your family lived here.
Yeah.
Who was here? Tell us about that.
So my mom is here. My father passed away 25 years ago. My mom is still living in the kibbutz. And I have two brothers, both with their families. One of them has wife and three kids. One of them has wife and two kids. Both of them are living in the kibbutz. And another brother, the youngest brother, is not living in the kibbutz like me. I left the kibbutz about 20 years ago. I got married. Now I live in Moshav in Halal, in Jezreel Valley. And we came to visit my mom and my brothers every once in a while, which, something like 3 weeks every month. My girls really like the kibbutz. They almost grew up in here. They're just like, we came here every summer. This is the neighborhood that the most people were kidnapped or murdered here. And we still have Gali and Zivi in Gaza. They are the two hostages from the kibbutz that are still in Gaza. This area is the youngsters' area, the youngsters' houses, units. So we all lived here in a certain stage of our life. So we know this area. This is a very vivid area. This is a vivid neighborhood. People really like to sit here, to be together. Ages get, mixed up. Mm-hmm. If up until then every one of us was with his age group only, this is the neighborhood that we start to mix up. And this was the most hurt neighborhood.
So I'm Victor Weinberger. I'm married to Sagit, who was born in Kfar Aza in the kibbutz, grew up here. Her parents still live here, or used to live here. Now they're at the temporary residence at Kibbutz Ruhama. And since October 8th, I left my other businesses and joined the kibbutz. I'm part of the rebuilding team. That's what I'm doing still.
And so just before October 7th of 2023, you were visiting your parents here.
Yeah, my wife's parents. On October 5th, my wife's father gathered his almost whole family, more than 100 people, the family reunion, and they all came here to their home at Kfar Aza, had a wonderful event. Everyone felt happy and safe.
Yes.
Luckily for us, they felt tired after the whole event, and they asked us not to stay for the weekend as we usually would do, especially on the holiday, on that specific holiday, on Simchat Torah of Sukkot. Our good friends Aviv and Livnat Kutz would organize a community event where the kids would build up kites in the morning at a workshop. And then in the afternoon, we would all go up to the soccer field in front of Gaza and fly the kites as a sign of peace and freedom. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And Aviv and Livnat and the three kids were murdered that morning. We're entering the young adults neighborhood of Kfar Aza. This was the happiest, liveliest place in the whole kibbutz. We have like two stretches of buildings here. In general, young people live here from the age of 18 to 30. This small street here, alley, was the younger folks. People who are 18 to 23, 4. And the other part is for the older folks. So most of the rooms here were occupied by one or two residents, if there were a couple. Most of them were either during their army service or students, young students after the army service. And here we have the house of Sivan El-Kabetz and Naor Hasidim, her boyfriend, who were, as the sign says, brutally murdered here. We have on all the rooms, and actually on the houses in Kfar Aza, we have this graffiti of the army forces who came in the days after and cleared the homes. Many of the rooms were booby-trapped, bodies were booby-trapped, so there was a lot of work clearing the bombs. You can see the diamond shape here. This is a Yahalom diamond squad of engineers that cleared the bombs. And we have all kind of writings. This says, Yesh Mechabel, there is a terrorist inside. This says, human remains on the sofa. The red circle with the red dot means there was an Israeli body found here. So if you'll have a quick glance at this neighborhood, almost every home has this red circle. Kfar Aza was actually occupied by the terrorists. There were hundreds of terrorists who came through the gates, or from the air, or from ever. And that was Saturday morning. The last one was killed on Tuesday night. So there were like several days of intense fighting here. After they murdered the inhabitants, they used the safe rooms to barricade themselves from the IDF. So a lot of that damage you see here is from that fighting as well. Photos were taken by a very prominent journalistic photographer from Israel called Alex Libak.
Oh.
He publishes his photo every week on the Haaretz. And on the photos you can see the floor before it was cleaned, all full of blood and remains. And there's a video, Sivan's parents, Shimon and Anati, dedicated this place in her memory. And there's a video of Anati, her mother, as she comes here and talks, and as she sees the horrors of what happened here. Yeah, it's you know, it was 220-odd kids living together. Here you can see a caption of the family WhatsApp. Sivan says, this is Saturday, 7 a.m. Dad, lock the doors, lock everything. We hear a lot of shootings. And her dad says, the army is dealing with terrorists. They're isolating them. And she asks, Dad, please tell me that you're okay, that my brother and sisters are okay. She's telling, we're hiding at the safe room. This is the safe room. They were out of my window. We're under the bed. He's asking her, are you hearing the soldiers coming? Send me your locations. And she sent him so he could share that with the soldiers. And he asked her that at 11 a.m., are there soldiers in your neighborhoods? At 12 a.m., Sivani. And then at 10 p.m., Sivani. And she's gone already. Now we're next to the room of Neta Epstein. Just the adjacent room to Sivan and Naor. Neta was the son of Ori Epstein. He was a good friend of us. He grew up with my wife from the age of 0, as I call them non-biological brothers and sisters. Neta just finished his service at the IDF as a paratroop, came back to the kibbutz, worked here with young kids. He was a goalkeeper growing up, was big on soccer. And he lived here with his fiancée, Iran. When the terrorists came, they threw grenades into their room. And Neta managed to throw several of them back at the terrorists. But then one of the grenades rolled next to Iran, who was under the bed. Neta yelled, grenade, and jumped over the grenade and saved her while being killed. And he kept saving her because she pulled his body next to her under the bed, so the terrorists wouldn't see her. and they came back a few times and didn't see her until the soldiers came many hours after that and rescued her. Neta's dad, Ori, lost on October 7th his mother, Bilha, his 2 brothers-in-law, 5 members of the family. And after they, we have Shiva in Judaism, we sit 7 days of mourning. So they had a whole month of Shivas because their deaths were not pronounced at the same time. So they had to wait. Nitzan, they looked for his body several days and so on and so on. So they set Shiva for a month, and then Ori came back. As I said, this was the part of the younger folks, and that was a scene of mainly murder, almost no survivors from this neighborhood. And next neighborhood, which is also part of the young adults, but are the older folks, 20-something to 30, was center of kidnapping. So we don't know why, but this is what happened. In total, there were 19 people kidnapped from Kfar Aza. 15 returned. 2, Yotam Chaim and Alon Shimris, who lived here, managed to escape in Gaza, but were accidentally killed by the IDF, tragically. And 2 brothers, Gali and Zivi Berman, twin brothers, they are still held, still captive. So you have Yuval Solomon over there who was murdered, and several others who were murdered as well. But many of the people who lived here were kidnapped, many times using their own cars. This was the parking lot here. That's the gate to the agriculture area that was blasted open on October 7th. 2 kilometers from that, it's Gaza. So 5 to 7 minutes, and they were in Gaza. In Kfar Aza, there were families that were kidnapped, mothers with their kids. Like we all know Abigail, her parents were murdered. She ran to her neighbors and was then kidnapped with a family, a mother and 3 kids, and Abigail.
3 little children aged 3, 6 and 9 watched when their mum and dad were both murdered by Hamas on October 7. 6-year-old Amalia and 9-year-old Michael ran and hid in a cupboard where they stayed and hid for 14 long hours. They were all alone. And to make it worse, the body of their mother was next to them outside the cupboard. But little Abigail, a toddler, 3 years old, was missing.
זה הסכם בינינו, הוא לא עונה, הוא מצלם. אז אני מרים טלפון לסמדר, לשאול מה קרה. מיכאל, הנכד בן 9, מרים את הטלפון, אומר לו, אני רוצה את אמא, אומר לי, אמא מתה, ואבא מת בחוץ. אני אומר לו, איפה אחותך? עמליה, אומר לי, על ידי, איפה אביגיל? אומר לי, לא בבית. בקיצור, שואה.
A neighbour saw Abigail being captured and described her as covered with blood that wasn't hers. Again, just 3 years old. She then spent 51 traumatic days in Hamas captivity. She turned 4 as a hostage, held by terrorists without any family around her at all. And when she was finally released on November 26, little Abigail returned to Israel an orphan.
So luckily Abigail is back, growing up with her family, and all the other kids are back. But Gali and Zivi, though 27, are still kids. And their family awaits them, and the whole kibbutz awaits them, and everything we do now to rebuild and rehabilitate is hampered by that. You know, it's the community is wounded, and until they're not going to return, it's gonna stay as a dark cloud above us. Wherever you go in the kibbutz, you see signs, you see the graffiti of the IDF on every home, because every home had to be cleared. As I said, many of the homes were booby-trapped, so they had to work very carefully here. But this is our ground zero. Yeah, so someone who lived in New York in 9/11 and could smell ground zero for months. Same was here. We could smell the death and the destruction for months.
I'll tell you a bit about my day, but we'll reach to my brother's house in a minute, and I want to tell you his story as well because it's important to me. Okay. So on October 6th, me and my younger daughter, I have two daughters. One was 15, one was 17 and a half. I came with my younger daughter to the kibbutz to celebrate Simchat Torah. And we had a nice dinner with all my family. All my brothers were here, my mom was here. And then we went to my mom's house to sleep. And we woke up in Saturday morning. Now we had my niece coming over as well because she and my daughter are good friends. They were both 15 and they're good friends. My niece always comes to sleep at my mom's. They having a sleepover at my mom's when we come to the kibbutz. So we woke up, all of us, my mom and me and my younger brother, my daughter and my niece. We woke up at my mom's house to the sirens. To the color red. It's not exactly sirens. In these places, when you close to the border in Gaza envelope, you hear the color red. You don't hear like sirens, okay? They say that there's a voice says color red, and then you know that you have to go into the shelter, in the safe room. So we ran straight away because it was really different than always. It was like not only the color red, but also we heard already shootings and falls. We heard the bombings. It was very intense. So it was almost panicked a bit. My mom was chill about it. She wanted to make coffee. And my daughter and my niece just shouted on her, no, grandma, please get into the safe room. And it was lucky that they did it because at the same time that we ran to the shelter, to the safe room, my next door neighbor was killed, just like going out to bring his phone from the safe room. And his wife was in the safe room and she's calling him and he doesn't answer. And then she went just to see what's happened to him and she saw him lying on the bed. So it happened in seconds. They were all over. I don't really know exactly how many of them entered in the morning and how many of them entered at 9 o'clock, but between 6:30 and 9 o'clock, we had a lot of time to respond and we didn't because all the civilian squads were the first responders and they were left alone. Nobody was there in these critical hours.
Can you explain what you mean when you say that about the civilians?
Every place that is lived here, every village in Israel, has a civilian squad.
Okay.
There are volunteers that just volunteer to guard the kibbutz, to save the kibbutz whenever is necessary. And when they hear the sirens, the color red, so they are alerted and they are in touch with the army and with the police and they say that if there are casualties, this is what they do. They guard and they have also weapons. And I can show you now my brother, Tal Eilon. He was the civilian squad commander. And his job was to call all the civilian squad, they are 14, and to tell them if they need to take weapon, what's the estimation of what's going on. And what we know, what we know about this morning is that he told his wife and kids, please get into the safe room. It's not the time to be heroes. He knew that there was a suspicious for an invasion, but they thought it was like one group of people, 10 people, 20. Nobody even imagined this could happen. This is his house, and here's the weaponry. There were commands from army or so that the weapons should be in a safe place and not with the civilian squad at home. I don't know if it was a direct a command that went out a few months earlier. Some of the places already did it, and some haven't. Here in Kfar Aza, all the weapon was in the weaponry that we will see in a minute. So if something happens, they need, first of all, to go to take the weapon. They don't have weapons with them at the house. So as you see, my brother's house is here and the weaponry is here. So he was one of the first people to go and take the weapon and just go straight over there towards the place that his friend, Ro'i Dan, he was a photographer. He went on the roof and took footage. His friend just sent them the footage of the hand glider on the floor with no person in it. So my brother knew that there's somebody in the kibbutz, and then they also heard shootings. So they took weapons, he and his friend, and they just went through that road up there. This is my brother Tal. And he went with his deputy, with Russo. Tal and Russo, they went together towards this glider. Towards the person's house, the person that reported it.
Okay.
And they thought they're going to finish, the deal. They're going to shoot them. But on the way, they were shot, both of them. My brother recorded a message while being wounded. He said, I'm hurt. I was shot. And he said, and Russo, which is this guy. And then he didn't say anything. I think he was dead, but I don't know. He said, and also, and then he stopped. And then he said, terrorist with IDF uniforms and with M16, M16. And then he said, first take them down and then we'll take care of the wounded. This was his last sentence. And then he got shot again. That we know afterwards. We know from the reports of the bodies and everything.
So he was going to render help.
Yeah. And he also called the commander of the civilian squad in Kibbutz Saad.
Uh-huh.
And he probably saved their lives because he just told them, listen, a lot of terrorists here. Please send rescue. And this guy in Saad, he couldn't send rescue. But he just knew. He knew from Tal's reports that this is what's happening, and nobody knew what's happening.
Right.
Now, all the commanders of the civilian squads were taken down very, very quickly.
So then the kibbutz was left with no security.
And with no connection to the army, because there's another job above the commander of the civilian squad, the Ravshatz. His job is to connect between the civilians and the army. All these chiefs were taken down in the first hours. So there was no connection between the army and the civilians. Nobody knew what's happening. One of the reasons that they didn't really know is most of the first responders, the chiefs were taken down quickly, very quickly. I'm talking 7 a.m., okay?
Yes.
7 a.m., my brother was killed at 7:15. It was his last thing on WhatsApp was 7:09, I think, if I remember correctly, 7:06, something like that. Last seen on WhatsApp. So they were taken down very quickly. And then the terrorists just understood that they have free approach because the army just didn't come. And at 9 o'clock, they were still entering squads of Nukhbas, very professional squads. They were entering. We heard first one that was killed was Ophir, who was the local council head. He was the first one that the media heard and broadcasted about that he was killed. And the second thing we heard about two kids in the cabinet in a cupboard that were left without parents and called the grandma that was in abroad travel. And she's a friend of my mom's. So she said that something had happened to her daughter and her husband. She doesn't know because the kids said they're lying on the ground. And these are the two things that we heard around between 9 and 10 in the morning. But this was the extent that we thought that might happen, that we are in the safe rooms, and that's what happened. That's what's happening. We didn't really understand the extent of the event. And then I remember at about 10:30, we started to hear shoutings in Arabic and shootings and Allahu Akbar, and it was very scary. We heard glass smashes, windows smashes, and we jumped on the door of the safe room. Me and my brother, we jumped on the handle of the safe room, and we just held it very tightly, and somebody tried to open it, and we wouldn't let him. And then they left, so we don't know. We jumped on the door. We understood that it couldn't be locked from the inside. It couldn't be locked at all, not from the inside or not from the outside. When you lift the handle, it is locked, but it is just locked, for bombs but there's a handle also from the outside, so we can open it.
Right. And so to be clear, the safe rooms are to protect you from the most likely attacks, which would come from the air.
Yeah.
Not to protect you against the unimaginable with hundreds of terrorists on foot coming into your actual homes.
Yeah. Nobody even imagined that scenario. I think it was the only time in my life that I felt deaths. My daughter and my niece went out under the bed. They were very scared. And me and my brother were holding the handle. And my mom was looking at the WhatsApp to write that they're coming towards us, and we still had connection, like Wi-Fi at that stage, which went off at 12:33. My friend says, our last seen on WhatsApp on 12:33 Saturday, they thought I'm dead. The only phone that was working was my niece's phone. She's in another network. And after hers in the evening got like 7%, and we were scared to be, contact loss or just like to be disconnected from the civilian, the civilization, because electricity went off, our air conditioner went off. We were 5 persons in a very small room. No food, no water. Water already went down in the evening. When they left the handle, it was like a relief, but still we were all stressed, of course. But we had like a minute to breathe. And then like 20 minutes after, we started hearing voices in Hebrew. Like I was hurt, I was shot. We really thought we heard, we tried to listen very carefully because we didn't know if they said in the WhatsApp groups the terrorists are speaking in Hebrew, some of them.
Oh.
So we didn't know whether it's safe to open the door. So then when we listened carefully, we heard them speaking in Hebrew. We were sure that they were soldiers, so we opened the door. And then we saw a wounded soldier on the floor of my mom's house. He was bleeding. And some soldiers around him, they were very surprised that we opened the door. They were probably scared. They thought nobody's in the house. And apparently we know that 2 of their team were killed on my mom's balcony. And they were under attack. The house was under attack. They said, we asked them if we can go and take some water. And they said, no, we'll bring you. The house is under attack. You cannot go out of the safe room. So they brought us 2 bottles of water. And we didn't actually saw the bodies, but after we talked to them after, after we all were rescued, but we didn't know it back then that they had 2 bodies with them of their friends. And the one that was wounded, he was their medical guy, their first aid guy, and he was jumping on one of the person that got shot to try to drag him into a safe place, which is my mom's house, and he got shot as well. We felt a little bit safer because we had army in our house. 2 of them waited until they were all evacuated, and then they got into the safe room, and they asked us to map the kibbutz for them because they don't have a map of the kibbutz. We were sitting there, and all around us, still bombing and shooting, and we started to listen to differentiate between the shootings of their guns to our guns. We said, okay, it's our army. No, it's terrorists. We started to name the different sounds of bullets, of shootings, of gunshots.
Because there were so many. You could determine the different.
We could, police officers, special agents. We had army here already. It was Saturday, 11:30 in the morning. And then, time went by, and then they just left us to just went to fight. So, we understood it, but at the moment, but now when I think about it, oh my God, why didn't they take us with them?
Right.
It's like, it's so, I don't know. This is my mom's house. It was, all this continued here. The safe room was here. And here was this our mango tree, which means that this is the balcony. This was the balcony. And I'm running fast because I cannot even start to tell about 35 hours in a safe room. I can tell a few things. People ask me, what did you talk about all this time? And I'm like, we didn't talk, actually. We were silent most of the time. We were very tensed. We were listening to hear if there are footsteps coming. We were listening, trying to figure out whether whether the gunshots are close or distant. We were trying to breathe. We were hot. We couldn't eat anything.
But it was 35 hours?
It was 35 hours. At a certain stage in the night, we saw the Gali's battery starting to get low. And then my daughter told her, hey, you have a cable here that can charge iPhones from Androids. So we started using our phones as batteries for her. So we will be in touch, in contact, in connection, because it was the only phone that was working. At around 10:30 in the evening, we heard footsteps. Of course, we jumped, but it was our soldiers. They knocked on the door. They said there was a password that they said on WhatsApp groups. They decided that they should have a passcode that they would say, so we know it's the IDF and not terrorists. They went, and no rescuer has arrived in the night. And we started to be very tired. I almost fainted. My brother and I did shifts on holding the handle. We had, I remember once more that somebody ran inside and tried to open it. My brother immediately jumped, even though it was my shift. It was, I don't remember even all the details. And then Sunday came, and we started to really feel dizzy. And my brother, not Tal that was killed, my brother Dekel that was in another house with his wife and kids, he was already rescued in the night. And he started to work on our rescue and understood that we're still alive. He saw Gali is connected on WhatsApp. He didn't write, so she's connected. So he said, okay, they're still alive. And he started to mark the house, to send it to soldiers, to say, okay, listen, there are people in this house. Army has arrived, tanks have arrived.
Okay.
And they started to blow up houses that had headquarters of Hamas inside them. Now, my mom's house was surrounded by houses, empty houses, because a lot of people from the kibbutz were in travel to Romania. So here and here, there were Hamas headquarters sitting, or just Hamas nukhbas that were drinking coffee or hiding or I don't know what. So the army, it was Sunday already, afternoon, about 2:30. They started to shoot, just to fire big rockets to their houses. And then they fired a rocket into one of the houses, and two of the terrorists ran inside our house.
Oh.
Now the soldiers saw them. So they immediately went after them. And then they knocked on our door and they said, how many are you? everybody's here. Nobody went out. They were scared that the terrorists took somebody as a hostage or went in and hold us as hostages. They didn't know which room they went to. What we felt was we heard the footsteps of the terrorists. We jumped on the handle. They tried to open, but they were escaping after they were shot. They were probably wounded already. So they went to one of the back, the room that's, the only room that's left here is the room that the terrorists were at. So they ran, and then the soldiers came right after them. So they didn't know where the terrorists go. So they asked us if everybody's inside, and I'm like, how many are you? They're asking. And then I look around, and I don't see my daughter. And I said, and I think, I'm almost fainting. Maybe I didn't see, and she went to the toilet. I said, and I called her, and she doesn't answer. And then I look under the bed. She fainted. So I just shake her, and I told her, soldiers are here to take us. But in the meantime, they close the door, and they tell us, don't open the door, don't let anybody in. And they go. And we hear shootings, we hear fightings, and the door is closed again. And then again, they open the door. They don't know what to expect. It happened 2 times, and in the 3rd time they came, we heard smashed glasses, and we heard shootings and shouting. And then in the 3rd time they said, when we open the door wide, you are running from the safe room here to out the balcony. The door was there. So they say, when we open the door, you are running one by one, not through the main door, which is there, but through the balcony that is here towards houses over there. Soldiers will be waiting for you behind the tree. This is the tree. So we ran with soldiers one by one. They say, don't take anything. I took my bag. But we ran one by one. I ran last. Now, when they opened the door, we see a line of soldiers, with helmets and shields, just separating between us and the back of the house. There's a fight behind them with soldiers and terrorists. And we're just running one by one under fire. And we went over there to the tree. Soldiers waited for us there and took us to a house over there. We could breathe. But we were overwhelmed. They blew it up with the terrorists inside. And what's left here, the shower, my mom's bedroom. And this is the room, the guest room that the terrorists were in. And our vehicle came to pick us up to the gas station where part of the kibbutz was. We started to understand the extent. We met my brother's wife that said that, she said, we're not talking about it now, but I think she knew. So you did not, you maybe thought, but you did not know until that point that your brother had been killed. His daughter said once, I think, in the night, I'm worried about Dad. And I told her, Dad is a hero and he's okay. And I really believed it. I really believed it. My brother, I'm the eldest. And I'm the oldest. And he's after me, and 2 others are after him. But in the past few years, I really felt sometimes as if he was my older brother. I really appreciated his knowledge and his advice. He was very funny, very, very funny, but, cynical funny. He was saying nothing until he had a punch. He was a great dad, and just a great brother. And I miss him very much.
And he left 2 children behind? 3 children. 3 children.
Yeah, his daughter was with us in the safe room.
Okay.
She didn't say goodbye to her dad that day. And the 2 kids, 2 boys, were with their mom at their house.
Very shortly after filming this episode at Kfar Aza, on October 13th, 2025, over 2 years after the Hamas attack on Kfar Aza, Hamas returned the last 20 living hostages to Israel. This included Gali and Zeev Berman, who were taken from the kibbutz that day. On October 17, 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice announced the arrest of Mahmoud Yaqub al-Mutadi, a Gazan native living in the United States, for his alleged role in the attacks on October 7th at Kfar Aza. In the government's complaint, they alleged Mutadi was an operative for the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine's National Resistance Brigades, a terror organization that we've discussed during this series, and that al-Mutadi heard Hamas's call to join the attacks, armed himself, and gathered others to participate.
And we will take back these colleges, as we will take back America, as we will take back Palestine, as we will take back our humanity. You will be the past, we are the future. Assalamu alaikum.